Well, welcome to the show. Over the past 40 years, the number of criminal laws have exploded. Well, today there are an estimated 5,000 federal statutes and more than 300,000 regulations that all contain criminal penalties.
Well, as Jennifer Wishon explains, mixing those statistics with our nation's civil unrest equals an often heavy-handed approach to the law. Take a look.
Two major stories dominating the headlines for weeks find themselves at a controversial crossroad. The COVID-19 lockdown and protests following the death of George Floyd are bringing renewed focus on law enforcement and America's freedoms, or lack thereof. We first saw this when citizens who dared to break government quarantine orders or protested to reopen their states were threatened with criminal prosecution. Something Timothy Head of the Faith and Freedom Coalition writes is a dangerous misuse of criminal law.
We're seeing that kind of heavy-handed approach across the country, literally impacting every single human life in the United States of America right now.
And during this wave of civil unrest and protest, we've seen peaceful demonstrators, even journalists, arrested, pepper sprayed, and shot with rubber bullets like criminals for exercising their constitutional rights. A demonstration, some say, of America's problem with over-criminalization.
If we end up criminalizing conduct that your average person would never have recognized was wrong, then people will all of a sudden lose respect for the rule of law.
These are regulations people break unwittingly because it doesn't seem like behavior that would or should be criminal. And they're everywhere. In North Carolina, for example, counties, cities, and towns, even metropolitan sewerage districts have the power to create ordinances that automatically carry the punishment of a Class 3 misdemeanor. And on the federal level, efforts to count the number of regulations with criminal penalties have been abandoned because it's an impossible task.
I've seen the estimate of at least 300,000. It's probably more like 400 or 500,000 regulations that carry criminal penalties.
And the fact is, it's hard to get them off the books. President Trump could sign an executive order directing agencies to get rid of regulations with criminal penalties. But it wouldn't happen overnight. To do it legally would take years. So during this time of civil unrest, there's actually something that unites Americans. There is no one in the United States over the age of 18 who cannot be indicted for some federal crime. That is not an exaggeration, says John Baker, a retired LSU law professor. For years in a number of cities, from Flint to Shreveport, wearing saggy pants was criminalized, a regulation that disproportionately targeted young black men for sporting a popular fashion trend despite its controversy.
When the same law is applied differently or has different impacts in different constituencies and communities, it makes all of us actually fundamentally suspicious of the system.
And that suspicion has reached a boiling point.
We don't want no more police. Is that clear? We don't want people with guns toting around in our community, shooting us down.
In New York, the nation's largest city, Mayor Bill de Blasio vows to cut police funding. In Minneapolis, the city council has voted to dismantle its police department.
Our commitment is to end our city's toxic relationship with the Minneapolis Police Department, to end policing as we know it.
And in the midst of this debate over policing and crime, many Americans are hopeful the nation's problems with over-criminalization will begin to be addressed.
When light shows up, darkness has to go away. So we're hoping with all this light that all the darkness will go away and stay away.
Well, we are fast becoming a nation of criminals, and we've actually done it to ourselves. And we've created this Byzantine layer of federal regulations that criminalize all activity. And then on top of it, we have militarized our police and we encourage SWAT teams. So, here are a couple of examples of SWAT teams coming to execute search warrants and break into businesses. One's from Tennessee. A guitar manufacturer was using exotic woods that apparently were banned by some regulation or law that came out of Congress. So it's a federal offense. They had a SWAT team in full SWAT gear, full body armor, automatic weapons, come into a guitar company, a manufacturing plant, and take them down. And then another one, this is a case out of Alabama, a guy was selling orchids from his home, and a SWAT team broke into his home and full riot gear to arrest him for selling orchids. Apparently one orchid he had in his collection that he was for sale was on some kind of endangered list. He didn't know it. But why are we doing this to ourselves? Why are we criminalizing this kind of behavior? And then on top of it, we are rewarding people who are prosecutors for their conviction rate. And so they want to leverage, and so they're using all of these statutes, and then they add on statutes, and whether it's racketeering or mail-in wire fraud, or we're going to put your son in jail if you don't plead guilty. If you don't cooperate with our investigation, we're going to charge you with obstruction of justice, or we're going to try to gin up some kind of perjury charge. And that is causing all of us to say, what in the world have we done? And the target shouldn't be the police. The target should be us. We've elected these people that have done this to us. We have created the bureaucracy that is creating these regulations. That's where this needs to be addressed. We need to decriminalize America. We don't want to live in a police state. We don't want SWAT teams breaking down our doors. We don't want a military police. That's not what America's all about. So let's start with us, and let's start holding our elected representatives accountable for what they're doing. They all want to, when something happens, let's create a new law. That's what I'm here. I'm a legislator, so we're going to create a new law. Let's challenge them. Can you get rid of these laws? Can you make it so we can all understand what the criminal penalties are? What is a crime? What isn't a crime? The statement that I've heard is that you can follow any American in the United States. You can follow them for just 500 miles, and you will find them violating the law. It's something they will do, and you can get them into an arrest situation. That is phenomenal, and that's not a civil culture. That's not a democracy.
Yeah. Well, and people need to be able to live without fear of simply seeing a policeman come down the street. I mean, we need to get back to
live without fear that by engaging in democracy, engaging in the political process, engaging in demonstrations, you're not going to be then in turn jailed.
Yeah.
That is the end of democracy, and that's the beginning of a police state.
Absolutely.
Hello, I'm Gordon Robertson. Thanks for watching the video. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more encouraging videos like this one. Welcome to the 700 Club Interactive family, and God bless you.